Welcome to Experiences of Insight. On today's episode, we are thankful and appreciative to be joined by Michael Tam. Michael is a speaker, mentor, and storyteller within the global creative community. He is also the Chief Creative Catalyst for IBM iX based out of Hong Kong. Michael shares with us some thoughts and insights on facilitation and innovation. He tells us what a creative catalyst is and shares with us a little about his journey as a creative. Lastly, Michael discusses his positive thoughts and hopes on how empathy can be used to help people find a middle ground in even the most complex situations confronting societies. Without further ado, we present Michael Tam.
Why don't I try to do a little intro?
Yeah.
So, Michael Tam, I've never really had you confirm that Michael Tam, that's the correct pronunciation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Not that there's a lot of variability in there, but I always want to check because sometimes I can go weeks, if not years, without being corrected when I'm communicating with someone and they're not willing to correct me, so they just allow me to go on and embarrass myself. So can you put me out of my misery and just confirm? Okay, so that's like my default now. And your title is Chief Creative Catalyst at IBM iX. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. So let's start with some of the formalities. Tell me a little bit about, and tell us about, what is it like being a Chief Creative Catalyst? What is that have you doing on a day-to-day basis? And what is your work about in IBM iX?
Okay. So this title is probably a little bit, I guess, different to a certain extent. It's not a standard IBM title. The reason is because me and our iX leader recognize that we want to find a way to enable everyone to just think a little bit outside of the box, even though we have a lot of different methodology and approach within IBM to help us to be innovative. But we want to create an environment that allow everyone to embrace the prototyping mentality, embrace being able to fail and move on quickly. So that's where it all comes from. To give me a platform to help all the other IBMers and our clients to embrace a more creative mindset to build this kind of culture within IBM and our clients. So that's where this title came in. And in my day-to-day, my duty varies a lot from engaging client, coming up with a point of view in terms of how to help them transform their business, to running design thinking workshop for internal and external parties, and helping our experienced designer, UX designers, and even our technologists to tackle problems. And most of the time that starts with figuring out where the problem really is rather than coming up with a solution in the first place.
One thing I want to mention, of course, both you and I are both IBMers. So full disclosure, we are IBMers. We happen to like IBM, so we might be talking quite positively on behalf of IBM. And by the way, our opinions are our own. So who knows what we're going to say, but we'll get that out of the way.
Yep. We can be very candid.
That's
opinions are our own. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, our own.
Michael, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up, maybe a little bit about your childhood, maybe about some of your formal training and education, and, maybe first couple of jobs out of school or while in school or when you were younger, and how you started to identify or get exposed to being a creative and that community. You have a wonderful resume and CV and experiences built on, and I know you're talking as you were explaining to us what a creative catalyst is, which is wonderful. Could you share with us a little bit about your background and experience?
Of course. Well, I guess first of all, my background as a person, I was born in Hong Kong and I lived half my life here, and then I immigrated to New Zealand and I spent pretty much another half of my life over there. Went to university and then I worked a little bit. When I was younger, I didn't know what I really wanted to do, and I guess could be related to a lot of other Asian kids that we start off with a very safe option in terms of what we should study. So we went for I went to study accounting. I did a bit of computer science as well, and then I realized my math is really bad. So I couldn't pass math 101 or 201. So I couldn't do this basic course. Then I give up computer science and accounting, of course, after a couple of try. And throughout my university life, I was basically trying to find a way out. What should I be doing? And quickly after that, I graduated in marketing, but I still don't know what I want to do. So, and then I was lucky enough to work for this company in New Zealand that runs a lot of hardware trade business. And I was hired as a management trainee. And thanks to this failed experience, because simply after a whole year spending in different departments, from finance to get on the road to being a salesperson, well, not a salesperson, tag along a salesperson, and even within the marketing department, I realized I didn't really want to be sitting in the office looking at Excel sheets, which later on that come full cycle, which is in an irony kind of way. But anyway, after this traineeship program, I realized I don't want to do all of those. And I was looking for another way out, and I thought, okay, I have always been sketching when I was young, and maybe I should really embrace my creative side of things, right? Then, and I went to study advertising, and since then, that gave me direction, and I've been working as an art director, creative director throughout all these years, and really try to expand my horizon in terms of where I can bring design to impact people's life. So last couple of years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, I really want to take this brand strategy, design thinking, creative thinking to a wider audience. So that's how I made a kind of a pretty smooth transition into user experience. And I guess right now I'm just not looking back. I really want to have this wide audience that could span across, CEOs to marketing, CMOs, marketing team to IT team, really help them to use creativity to solve their problems. So that's sort of my journey, starting from not knowing where I wanted to go, not knowing what I wanted to do, and just keep searching, trying to look back into what really get myself ticked, and find a way to express myself, basically.
And I think we've come up with a new ad for UX, which would read, I guess, design. There's no math. Mm. So you said there's no math. You didn't like math. I think that's advertisement. We could put on a billboard. I think we would really a lot of people interested in design if we could promise them there was no math.
Well, but then the irony of it is once now we're running a project, we do look at Excel sheets, and then now especially my role changed a little bit nowadays into a little bit more go-to-market, client engagement, and managing a project, managing an opportunity. I do have to face that challenge again. So that's something new for me to learn, to pick up math again when I'm at this age.
But I think probably one of the cool things is that now you have appreciation for what it's like to do these complex calculations, and also to use spreadsheets. So I imagine that would also give you some advantage in designing for how can we make this easier? How can we make this something everyone could do with a much more efficient user experience? So that may be another way of improving that. So let me ask you, being a catalyst, obviously you're not going to be referred to a catalyst. You're not going to get that title if you don't energize people. So what are some of the things that you do to energize people, to get them to believe in design? How do you do it?
Okay. What do I do? Well, first of all, internally for my team, I generally try to remind them every day that it's okay to fail. Okay, to not know the answer, and it's very important for them to remember that they need to have fun. Only when you have fun, then you can be creative. Only when you have that mindset and building that culture, you can come up with innovative solution. So that's part of the cultural building that I try to do. In terms of really trying to help people to embrace this mindset, or in a practical way, let's say in a workshop, I try to make a fool of myself most of the time. So, for example, at the beginning of the workshop, I will be either telling a really bad joke, or I will try to make some changes to some of the exercise that we do. I'm sure, Lee, you are very familiar with some of the exercise. For example, we always start a workshop with a warm-up exercise, asking people to draw a feature, a product, which could be a vase, could be a alarm clock, and then ask them to draw a better way to wake up, right? So normally people end up with 2 post-it notes, and I'll always ask them to squeeze one of them, and then, well, actually squeeze one of them, and then try to ask them to throw at each other. Just to get everyone to enjoy this kind of, I guess, be a little bit more free spirit. And another thing that I'm always trying to do is to remind them that they are having fun. Is at the end of a workshop, we always do a boomerang. So again, giving people another chance to just to be a little bit less serious, and to enjoy being a little bit stupid, and really help people to embrace this kind of, I guess, a designer approach to problem solving, rather than, hey, let's calculate how we can, come up with a calculated solution, put it that way.
Yeah. On the topic of getting people comfortable with the concept of being okay to fail, tell us about something that sticks out in your mind about maybe you won't classify it as a failure, but something that was a piece of feedback that you received that allowed you to pivot or adjust course. And maybe if you had any lessons learned from that experience, something that sticks out that you wanted to share with somebody, either on a personal basis or professional basis. Could you share a moment or a thought, if you have one, with us?
Wow, that's a tough one. I was just having this conversation with one of my colleagues today that I realized I always sort of look backwards. I do a lot of retrospect. The funny thing is, whenever someone asks me about a similar question to this, like what was your past success or failure, I always find it very hard to remember. I mean, because one of the reasons I always try to do this kind of retrospect is I analyze the problem a lot. I analyze it. I try to relieve those failure and digest it and break it into small pieces. And then once I solved it, I sort of move forward and then forget everything that's about it. Maybe one of the biggest failure is sometimes I could be doing that too much. So that means I could be overthinking the problem a little bit too much, or maybe I inject a little bit too much of those emotions into it. And then when people point out to me, at that moment, I could get a little bit, maybe a little bit defensive, maybe. And that's something that I'm still trying to work out, maybe because I need to work in my own pace in terms of this kind of internal digesting phase. So maybe if I could, I don't know, maybe bounce it off with someone a little bit quicker earlier, that could be something that I could still improve on. But it's always tough because every problem or every failure or even good things that I would analyze within my brain is every situation is so different. So I don't know. I'm still learning every day.
Things going on at all times of the day. What are some of the things that you like to get involved with, participate in? What do you do with your free time?
Wow. Okay, that might sound very workaholic. I think I never realized my passion for design so clearly until the recent couple of years. It probably has something to do with I was very lucky to be given a platform to express myself within IBMI. But at the same time, I think the community in Hong Kong is one of the best one I have experienced I haven't lived in too many places, to be honest. New Zealand is good. I've been to Berlin a couple of years, which have a very vibrant design community as well, which I love. But I think because of Hong Kong is very, very small, and we have so many international designers come and go, trying to build a new base in here as well. So with all these new talents, in my free time, I really love to give back to the community. So I guess it's not a surprise to you guys, as we connected on LinkedIn, you notice I will go to a lot of meetups, maybe giving sharing with let's say a design panel, or just basically engage with the community. That's something that I do a lot. Meeting with fellow designers is another thing I enjoy a lot, like having just a coffee, having just a chat, similar to what we do right now. I think those engagement pretty much better than even going to let's say art exhibition. Of course, those are great, but I love that human element of within the design community, rather than just, all right, let's look at this beautiful art right there. Of course, it inspired me, but nothing more inspired me more than a fellow human being, in a sense. So that's what I love to do. Even if it's non-designer, I just love meeting people, chatting to them. You learn most of the time.
Now, on that topic of meeting people and chatting with people, and you had mentioned that based off of your upbringing and travels throughout different parts of Asia, and as well as some of your schooling down in Wellington, and then some of your time in Germany and other places that you've been. For people that haven't been that fortunate, that might be listening, and maybe haven't had a chance to venture outside of their local area, what are some of the lessons learned from the experiences that you've had with other people in different regions or cultures? And as a catalyst, what are the, I think of you as maybe like the guru when it comes to getting people to work together, to be creative, employing tools and methods. What are some of the salient points that you would like to share with people based off of where you are now and some of those lessons learned in those experiences and places that you've been?
Sure. Okay. When I was younger, I was actually quite shy. So even my parents said, can't imagine that I just talk non-stop nowadays. But so I was quite shy, and I think one of the biggest lessons I learned is, excuse me, is it's never a failure if you say something wrong, or if you just step out of your comfort zone. So once I start doing that, my life and sort of my career changed a whole lot. So my advice for a lot of designers, especially young ones, is get off your phone and get out and reach out to people. I think that's very, very important. And that's got nothing to do with whether you get a chance to fly to San Francisco or Berlin or anywhere. You have a local community, and they are always very exciting, hidden talent people in there. So I think that's the first step. I always believe in the concept of give and take. You got to give before you take. So give up that pride, give up that self comfort zone, step out there, reach out to people, and there's always someone who's willing to give something back. So that's the first step. And well, of course, even though I said get off your phone, but then as a creative person, as a designer, you need to be curious. I keep repeating that to my team, that they need to, as they grow, designer is not just your job title. Being a designer is a lifestyle. So that means you should be watching, you should be observing, you should be curious about every single thing that's going around in your life. So it could be how an old lady writing a paper sign down the road, or how someone, young kid, how they run around chasing after a ball. I don't know. You could always observe something, how people act in their life. So those becomes the substance of your design. Those becomes the materials, right? So two things: reach out to people and start observing. I think that's very, very important. And I think, and the fact is, well, when we talk about being curious, being observing, that is the moment that you can bring in the digital tools. Follow people, read, and well, we all love IG, so Instagram, keep scrolling. Those are great medium to channels to learn about art direction nowadays. Especially, we don't get to see a lot of good billboards anymore. So good to read up these, use these visual channels to learn about your art direction, learn about your craft, and observe people, observe how things work, and that's how you learn about user experience or interaction design, right? And like I said, reach out to people, talk to people, follow people, find a good mentor. That's very important. I was blessed by in my career with people who willing to teach without holding back. So I think that's very important.
You do in your spare time, and I'll show you your future. And it sounds like you're doing a lot in your spare time to position yourself to be a good designer and to inspire people. Who would you say that you most want to collaborate with? And or if you don't like that one,
Okay.
if no one comes to mind that you want to collaborate with, you could say, I just want to collaborate with myself. Also, what types of projects or areas are you most excited about in design?
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's probably two-person. I don't want to sound too cliche, actually, but it's just what it is. I would love to work on a project with Simon Sinek. I think he is one of he might everything that he says might seem so simple, but I'm sure it goes through a lot of internalized of thinking, think about problems, thinking about process, and then regurgitate them into a way that is so simple for everyone to understand. And the fact that he believes in helping other people, he's not a designer, but he is a design thinker. He is a creative mind. So able to work with him on a project that can maybe coming up with a solution, or I don't want to say a platform because that sounds already like a solution, but coming up with a way to help even more people to realize the dream sounds like something that could help to move the human race forward. So that would be one person. But if I need to pick someone who is very designy, I would pick probably someone like Johnny Ive, someone who's just not just because of his status, of course, but because of his reputation for being such a high standard. I think I will be very challenged to. I think I read an article sometime before about a designer who said he worked with Johnny Ive, and then it's like when your client is Johnny Ive. Let's just say when your client is Johnny Ive, then suddenly you don't even know if you are offering a better design service for them, or are you just learning with them when you're working along the way. So I think having this kind of opportunity to design something together would be really cool. And I don't think Johnny and I have ever designed something like Lee, you sort of touch on now. You run a design sprint for AI, right? So if we can get Johnny Ive to collaborate on these sort of kind of intangible project, that would be interesting. That would be something I would be interested in.
I've been thinking a lot about deep sprints. These are really complex, sophisticated sprints, things that have to do with AI, that have to do with blockchain, that have to do with robotics and automation. Yeah, that's an area that I want to investigate using enterprise design thinking and, of course, packaging it up with a design sprint. So within a quick period of time, we get the right talent in the room, like those, with people that we most admire, where possible, where it's feasible, but definitely have a goal to produce something really amazing.
And I think it would be really cool to have this little twist that bringing these really awesome people, but then put them into a different zone, right? Like I said, put Johnny Ive to design something intangible, not product focused, or you maybe, I don't know, calligraphy, right? Ask him to design a product together. If we can bring him in and maybe collaborate and do a design sprint with Johnny Ive and ourselves, that would be quite a learning experience.
I'm sure they'll be up for it. I'm sure they'll be up for it.
Well, we got to figure out how to bring someone back to life.
I would assume that both you and Lee internally have access to a lot of training and resources, and because of the network, your team, Michael. I know I've been looking at some of the news releases about some of the acquisitions that the team has made. Enabling IBM to have the largest global creative agency. It's a very impressive story there. So are there any other places like externally that you could share with us that, if I want to keep abreast of trends in the art space, creative space, design space, or even just like, kind of geek out on certain blogs or newsletters or anything like that. I have a few that I follow myself. Is there anything that you could share with listeners and people out there as places that you like to go to, that you value their content?
I sort of touched on one platform before, which is the Instagram. I think it is great for just absorbing the latest design style, because it's so limited. As a platform, it's actually limited, but it's great because it's pushing all the people to try to fit their art direction, the composition within such a small frame, right? So I think that's a great platform to play with as an art-based creator. But personally, I think I spend most of my time on LinkedIn, which is, I think, now it's becoming just the go-to place for if you want a deep conversation and really insightful sort of inspiration. I mean, I still have Facebook. I do go to Medium, but I find it a little bit hard to find content in a consistent basis, which I guess go back a little bit before, like I mentioned, you got to find mentors or people who you want to work with, and then try to follow them on LinkedIn, and then I basically scroll through it every single day, different hours. That's my go-to one. I wake up, I scroll LinkedIn. Around lunchtime, I scroll LinkedIn. Of course, it's, you still get content that is sort of been shared around, which is not a surprise. But still, as a platform, I see most of the content that really related to areas that we can make more impact. I think I sort of touch on that. I have a growing interest in the business design or service design area right now, and I think understanding how business people work help us as a designer a lot, even just by following some of the content that normally won't interest you. I mean, if someone posts around about the stock market, I mean, I might not be a huge investor, but having been in around the environment allow us to have a sense of what people will be talking about or what they care. So if we come by, let's say, doing a banking project, then those things would help, even though you never really planned for it. So I think those, still, LinkedIn is my one. Maybe I should get some sponsorship from LinkedIn, although I don't. But but it's just my go-to one. I really love it.
Yeah, I it's interesting that.
How about you guys? Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because that concept of having a network, it's almost leads you down the path of spending your time and focus, assuming that people have limited points throughout the day at which they're checking social media because of other things that they're focused on. And you create a network which kind of, you follow who you care about, either professionally, personally, or because of the content that they post. and it's one form that you can do it. And I think a friend of ours, Ross Chapman, was saying something similar to you. At least in LinkedIn, the quality of the content that you're going to be getting is a little bit more refined, and it's a little bit more aligned to maybe some of your interests. So I would agree with you across the board on that one.
I think someone. Sorry.
So I like the fact that on LinkedIn, it definitely ups the stakes, right? If you're on Facebook, you could be posting. Sometimes you actually may be trying to post something professional and interesting, but it's quite casual because the stakes are low. But when you're LinkedIn and you have to say something in front of your community of peers or in front of your manager, etc., you're pretty careful about what you're about to say. So I like that aspect of it. It improves the stakes. People are very careful. They've been thinking about it, and they know it's going to be, something that will probably contribute to their network. They're not going to put something out there that is casual. So I think that's that's a great aspect.
Yeah. I think someone once mentioned, right? Who you want to be is really depends on who you surround yourself with, right? So that's, again, it's garbage in, garbage out. And if you try to surround yourself with people who inspire you, then even virtually, it really helps you come up with, storing all the substance within yourself without being very conscious about it. And when you need to come up with new ideas, these things just fire at the back of your mind, and then you create something better, right?
Yeah, and just like, obviously there's a saying, steal like an artist, or borrow heavily from artists, or lease like an artist. I don't know which one of those. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to come up with something amazing every single day. You can rely on your network to come up with something really amazing, and then you just work off from it, or you iterate on it. And it's a constant source of that inspiration. Sometimes you just need energy. Sometimes you just need a laugh. But you can outsource innovation a lot of times, and LinkedIn is good.
Yeah, it's funny how when you start this message, this statement is, you said, I can't remember who said it, but someone said blah 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 blah, which is exactly a perfect example, right? Because you've been reading something somewhere on a good platform that is, with high quality, and then you digest it, tuck it in, and then with your own input, you twist it, turn it upside down, and look at it from a new lenses, and then you come up with something, hopefully even more profound. And I think that's perfect. That's great. Yeah.
So what are you? I know it's 12:30, a little bit after 12:30 in the morning there on Saturday. What is next for you for the rest of the weekend, and what does Michael have on tap for the weekend?
Well, no, there's a lot of weekends that I do work. The funny thing is, I don't want to sound like a workaholic, because I do enjoy my work a lot. Because I felt like when I'm working, I try to I don't just work. I look at the project that we do, the engagement that we do. Even when I'm building a deck, looking at a framework, I try to really digest it and break it down into pieces. So work sometimes in the weekend I do these kind of things, but this weekend no. I will take a break and I play a lot of football. And the fact is, during my university life, when I was feeling a lot of lost in terms of direction and all that, I spend all my time playing football. So I still do. I think it's very important as a designer that, of course, I said I work a lot, but it's important that you have other things. So I play football tomorrow morning, and I'll meet up with some friends, football friends as well. They having a housewarming party, so going to be meeting different people from different walk of life, and we're going to play FIFA. So again, having fun sometimes, is just to chill and relax is really good. Again, sometimes the designer mindset will kick in, and then I'll start observing. Okay, how did the latest FIFA 2020 design the UI screen? How did they come up with this player profile? These things are going to go into the back of my mind for future usage. But I'll try to enjoy myself, and of course spend time with family. I think it's very important. I don't do a lot of travel recently, but if I get a chance to, normally I would Hong Kong is easy, so it's always good to go to take a short trip, go to Southeast Asia. I think one of my old mentor once told me that you got to travel. You got to travel. You got to travel. You travel. There was when I first moved back to Hong Kong. Maybe because I used to grow up in New Zealand, it's right at the corner of the world. It's very expensive to go travel, so I don't had a habit to go travel and see other things, which is a shame. But once I moved back to Hong Kong, my mentor said, "Hey, you got to go around Southeast Asia. There's so many different culture around." And then once, and then I fell in love with this kind of habit, and I think I tend to do a couple of trips throughout the year, and I think it's always good to have this kind of cultural shock all the time. Good. Yeah. How about you guys?
yeah, okay. Well, we like to travel. I think Dave does a lot of traveling. Yeah, why don't you go ahead, Dave?
Yeah, so this weekend, so the question about this weekend, so my wife has office hours on Saturday, and I have two boys. Axel is 6, just turned 6 last week, and Robin is 2. And so Axel has a soccer game tomorrow, football. So plays football. He wants to be a professional football player, and so he plays football 3 days a week. And so we'll be outside tomorrow, and we have some other activities, a lot of outdoor activity. I'll probably get into a game of Battleship with Axel at some point when Robin's taking a nap, or maybe he's taking a certain liking to Monopoly. And then on Sunday, and then when Mom comes home, I usually come into my office and I do some work in the evening on Saturday until I'm too tired to do any more work. And then on Sunday, we try to do, it's the one day a week where we're together in the same place. And we try to do some family activities, and we have a swimming pool in the area that hopefully, if I'm lucky, we'll get a chance to go swimming with the family and, just have some really fun time and maybe take a nap together if we're lucky or do something like that. I agree with you on travel. I grew up in Southern California, and a lot of people that may or may not know how vast and how big, from a landmass perspective, the United States is. It's like a 6-hour plane flight from where I am in New York to where I grew up outside of Los Angeles. I grew up about 45 minutes outside of Los Angeles, and I came to school out east on the East Coast when I was 17. And ever since then, right out of school, I graduated and I stayed in New York. And I've really been fortunate to be able to travel and see different places, meet different people at different points in my life. It's been a very big part of my life, and definitely making who I am, helping me understand different people, I think is definitely, without question, made me into who I am, especially when it comes to concepts like empathy and just understanding. And, you need to be out of your comfort zone. I think in traveling forces you to do that, because sometimes, especially if you go to a place where you don't have a common language, you have to figure out a way to do what you need to do and to get from point A to point B, or to, find food to eat, or if you're lucky to tap into the local places that you wouldn't find in a tour book or on a blog post. And those are some of the things that I like to do.
Nice. I literally push you to out of comfort zone. It's good. So how about you?
Yeah, so Michael, I think I mentioned that I lived in Hong Kong for a couple of years. And what I liked about Hong Kong is I just, for some reason, felt safe at all times. Like any time of the day. I think that also has to do with people are out and about at all times of the day. But I really enjoyed the photography. I would go to the peak. I would walk all through the mountains. Nice. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it a lot. I have a million trillion photos. But also when I was over there, as you mentioned, it being in a pretty prime spot, I went to Taiwan. I went to Japan. Let's see what else. I went to New Zealand. I went to Indonesia. So a lot of amazing experiences. And as a creative person, I think it definitely improved my ability to listen and observe, because everything is magnified. It's so stimulating to be in those different places. The signs are different. People dress different. They talk different. There's so much there. So I think that was probably very shaping in my curiosity on how do people behave, how do they live, and all those things. So that was a huge experience for me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, travel is important, very very important. Since we talk about the topic of travel, I just want to sort of also touch on that. You guys mentioned that I was probably lucky to go to a lot of conferences or go to a lot of different cities, but I also want to remind a lot of our younger designers is that you should find your own way to get to different conferences. You learn so much, and sometimes you don't need to spend a lot of money. To be honest, you got to put yourself out there, try to win an award, win a little competition, and then they give you a ticket to get there, right? And then you see, you listen to people, you meet new mentors, new friends, and you are in a new city, and those things just blow your mind away. And I think a lot of the time, even now, I still do it, which is still trying to, I think it's normal. It's when people try to self-justify whether they should spend some money to go to a conference, to spend it.
Yeah,
it's always worth it somehow. Always worth it. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think I heard a few people, I was listening to a few people about 2 years ago saying that, and maybe at that point in time, I bet if they thought about it now, or maybe circumstances have changed, they were very guarded on how they used their time, and they were very against going to conferences just because of the cost and the time, and they were more driven by like trying to get engaged in a different way to generate revenue. I'm like-minded to what kind of some of the stuff that you were saying about just get out there, do it, and be exposed to that and the experience. It's wonderful and rewarding. I can't say that enough. It is wonderful and rewarding because you increase your network. More than likely, you're going to learn from some of the masters or best practitioners out there, and if you're lucky, and but that's a real fulfilling experience for all people, and it also has that element of taking you out of your comfort zone and putting you in a place that's not your norm. You don't get to choose where you're going. The venue and the site is set by somebody else, and that's kind of an interesting dynamic and setting and environment to go into.
Yeah. You definitely can cheat the learning curve when you go and see these people in this environment. You're getting the extract of their 10, 15, 20 plus years of experience. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's definitely accelerates your progress.
Yeah. Of course, it depends on, also the person, how you approach it, right? We're not encouraging everyone to be just a conference junkie and all that, right? But like you said, it's that 20 seconds, 30 seconds of people sharing, and then it really accelerate and open up your mind, right? You see how most of the time people will share their struggle as well as their success, and just got to pick the right ones to go. And you don't have to go to a lot, just once a year. That would be very helpful, especially for a young person. I still learn a lot whenever I go anywhere, meeting fellow designers. So I think it's important.
I know when we talked a few weeks ago, we were talking the climate and the local situation in Hong Kong was definitely in the news. And, I was wondering if you could maybe give us an update from your perspective on the vibe there, however specific or general you want to be or you're comfortable talking about with us. Could you give us an update from the ground there in Hong Kong and what you're seeing and how people, your friends and your community are reacting?
Yep. It's actually kind of funny because, like you said, we chatted about this topic a couple of weeks ago, and I think back then I already said, it's not looking that good. The city is really torn, and there's a lot of issue in terms of how the biggest question is how much empathy is coming up from the government or the police. And of course, now with both sides going hand in hand, it's really about empathy from everyone, which is the lack of empathy. And when Lee, you were saying, a couple of years ago, you were living in Hong Kong, you feel very safe. I used to felt like that way too. I still remember when I first went to San Francisco. I felt, some areas. I was staying in the Tenderloin area, near the Tenderloin area, which is infamous for a little bit messy over there. And then after that trip, as much as I had a good experience with the friends and the design community over there, when I went back to Hong Kong, I realized, oh my God, Hong Kong is a very safe place. You can walk out in the street at nighttime, and there's just you don't need to worry about anything. The other place that gave me that safe feeling was Berlin. But recently in Hong Kong, very sad, unfortunate fact is we don't feel that safe anymore. No matter it is from the so-called pro-government gangster or from the lack of police. So this is how I see it. Right now, I don't see a way out for anyone. To be very honest, I don't see a way out for anyone because I don't see government which is understandable. If you think about from a control point of view, government. I have a friend who mentioned that the logic of government, the idea of government as a academic definition is almost you want control, which means you have less empathy. So as a designer, I can understand that concept, but I find it very sad and very hard to accept. And I think if you look around the world, the best government are the ones who are willing to listen first. Then you come up with a solution that might give you that control, or at least have a balanced option for everyone. But right now we don't see that in Hong Kong, which is a very, very sad situation. And like I said, I honestly don't see even the development from a couple of weeks ago when we chat until now I think it's even worse to us an extent. It's not, when I said worse, it's not the messiness on the street, because it's just around the same. I mean, I think worse is because of the feeling as a citizen. You really don't know when you walk out of the street what is it going to be you caught right in between crossfire, or whether gangsters are going to come up and knock you out. So it's that. But I yeah, like I said, I don't see a way out, which is probably sounds a little bit more hopeless than a couple of weeks ago. I hope we can find a way out. I think last time I mentioned having that empathy is very, very important. I still believe that is the only way for people to find a solution. Like in design thinking, right? You there's always give and take. When in the workshop, you understand different units, different stakeholders have different needs. And as much as I will, as a designer, I think it's important to have a voice and have a candid voice as well. I would always side with the ones who have less power, I think. But I do think for way forward, we've been asking for 5 demands. The retraction of the bill, having an independent investigation unit, no matter it's police or a protester. Or there are 5 requests, 5 demands. From a protester point of view, people want 5 demands to be satisfied. But I think if we think from an empathy point of view, from a solution point of view, everyone has to back down a little bit just to find a way out. At least have a conversation. I think if from a designer, solution main point of view, I think that's the way out. Sorry, I kind of went on a little bit too long on this response, but yeah, that's how I see it. And the fact is, if you look around Hong Kong, and from an international, as an international audience, what you guys hear from your end, but we see a lot of designers and the creative community, or even in general community, people create a lot of finding new ways to communicate the issue. You will see beautiful design posters. You see there's a beautiful song written that unite everyone in Hong Kong who are requesting for change and requesting for those demands. So from a design point of view, I actually see I've been really touched by the effort and the creativity that came out from not just professional designers but from the public as well. So maybe creativity is the way out, and empathy. Yeah.
The inclusion. How do we really include people and get to authentic conversations? And I think if there's anything that was able to soften the position of people and get them together, it would be through the approach that designers make and creative people make, and being able to tell through storytelling and conveying the emotions and the opinions, and also being open, showing vulnerability. If there ever was a way to do that, I would imagine designers and creative people could do that. So I'm extremely hopeful that will contribute. And also in regards to it now kind of being an international situation, I'm hoping that the fact that there are many people aware of it will further a accelerated solution. It's not something that is happening in a corner of the world that no one knows about. It's always there. It's on the news. It's being written about. It's being discussed. It's on Twitter. It's on everything. And as long as it's in the active consciousness of society, I'm hoping that will allow for cooler, for people to be really thoughtful about how they're addressing it, and it'll also provide some pressure that for both sides to find commonality and a way forward. So anyway, I'm very hopeful. I know it's difficult.
Yes. Well, being hopeful is very important. I think as a designer, that's the mentality we should have.
I think when you talked about, so to your point about what our perspective is sitting from the outside, I think on the surface we feel that the situation where it is has potential to get very bad very quickly, just because of the way information is disseminated to us here in the States. But I think the key point that you mentioned about both sides working towards a middle ground, even though you said it has deteriorated since we last spoke, I think that in general is a very good insight for everybody to consider, whether, we're talking about the situation at hand in Hong Kong, but also generally speaking, it's very nice to hear you say that and remind people, and hopefully when we get your message out, people in the area are listening to that and take that under consideration and are mindful of that and are not losing sight of the bigger picture, and making sure that whatever resolution is made, it's done with the least amount of negative impact to the people and to the communities. So thank you for sharing that point. I think it's a really sweet point, and it's good because a lot of people, think like it has to be one way or another, but no, it doesn't necessarily have to be one way or another.
Yeah, in the midst of all those emotions, right? It's very easy for people to just black and white, just either this or that, right? sometimes I would think, the only way that we could bring different stakeholders together, come to alignment in design thinking, right, is the voice of user, right? That means a third element that's out of both parties. So they come to this third element that allow them to come to a common ground. So right now, as a designer, I've always been thinking, what is that common ground? Maybe, like Lee said, could be the international awareness, allow everyone to, kind of, hey, let's put a pause to it and step back a little bit. Or maybe there's something that we need to keep on looking for, that exploration of what are the common grounds that everyone can come into play. But right now, I just hope we can get to a solution sometime soon. Yeah, it's difficult from a public sort of citizen point of view. Yeah, very, very difficult. Yeah, but designer has a role to play. Yeah, has a very, very important role to play. I think one of you guys should be familiar with him, George Lewis in the States, right? Doesn't really matter what position or which wing he is with. But I think is one thing he mentioned is very quite important is, as a designer you are given a very unique power to shape culture, shape people's mind. In advertising, of course, you influence people's mind with your creativity, right? But as in a general sense, I think as a designer, we given this superpower to come up with a solution or a way that normal people might not be able to come up with. So I think we need to put those power into good use, and or else great power come with great responsibility. If you don't use those power, then you not deserve to be some sort of superhero, I guess. So we have to do it.
All right. I know we're running out of time, and that was quite a meaningful. So I'm grateful, but I think we need a pivot. That's really a lot to think about, and I appreciate you being open, candid. Yeah. One thing I want to make sure we get in is what is there something coming out this year or something you are participating in that you want people to know about?
Okay. Anything else?
Or a conference you're going to be at? Is there anything?
Yeah, okay. By the time that you finish the editing, it should be out in the public. We IBM Hong Kong, we're going to be a sponsor, a partner of the Service Design Hong Kong conference, which is the biggest conference in this area, service design. So it's the first time we get we managed to get this partnership going, and they are very excited, and we are very excited. I should be there. Don't know in what kind of capacity. We initially talk about maybe helping to run a workshop. We might also be doing a bit of sharing. So it will be exciting to be part of that. And of course, I'm very excited to wait for this podcast to come out. I think it's the second time we're having this chat, and I think it's really good to be bouncing thoughts with you guys. What else? I don't have a lot at this moment, to be honest. I might be. Oh, next year I'll be at Cannes, so I'll be excited on that. Yeah.
Where can people find you?
LinkedIn, like I said, is the platform that I go to, and I learn a lot, and I hopefully can connect with everyone to learn of them as well. So please go there, find me. Just look up Michael Tam, you'll find.
Cool.
Or look at Lee and Dave, and we'll be connected.
On behalf of the Experiences of Insight team, thank you not only for taking the time for a second go around of this, and thank you for being open and receptive and supporting us and allowing us to capture your message and share it with the world, and sharing with us as well as our listeners those nuggets. we really hope that people get a chance to listen to you and learn from you as well. Lee, I don't know if you'd like to add anything.
Yeah, why don't you share that?
I think you captured it. We're very grateful. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to share with you guys. And we all designers have a role to play. So let's change the world.
Yeah.
Together.
Cool.
Together. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Stay in touch.
Thank you. You too, Michael.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh.
On behalf of the Experiences of Insight team, we thank you for taking the time to join us. We hope that you found this episode value added and you continue to check out our content. Have a great day.